As we've been reporting this morning, Kyrgyzstan's president is struggling to hold on to power, with protesters engaging in violent clashes with government soldiers. For more, Norman Hermont joins us now from Moscow. Norman, thanks for joining us. Just what's going on there in Kyrgyzstan?
Well, you mentioned the struggle to hold on to power. Virginia, it looks like he may be losing that struggle. The latest reports we're getting from Bishkek, the capital of Kyrgyzstan, is that President Bakiyev has left the capital for a city in the south. It's not clear whether he'll remain in the country. The opposition is saying that they have met with government representatives at the parliament and that they have resigned the government. So there are reports from Kyrgyzstan tonight that the government has been toppled by this public unrest that swept the country over the last day.
Is this a coup?
It's not a coup. It's the result of growing unrest in the country by various groups of opposition members. What has happened in Kyrgyzstan is last month the leader, President Bakiyev, he celebrated the 5th anniversary of his own rise to power after a revolution in the country, the so-called Tulip Revolution in 2005. Now, during his rule, many people said the country actually moved backwards. It became more autocratic. Human rights were widely disrespected. Political opponents were jailed. Some were murdered. It became much more like a Soviet-era republic, the sort of thing that Bakiyev said that he would turn away from when he seized power. So there was a lot of discontent. There were some protests last month in March, and people had predicted that there was unrest brewing in the country, and it literally boiled over. Started 2 nights ago, and then, of course, some of the pictures that will be seen around the world today of really violent protest in Bishkek. I believe you mentioned 40 people dead. The latest reports we have, the opposition are saying more like 100 people were killed across the country. In some of those pictures, you can literally see security forces opening fire with machine guns on the crowds of protesters. So it was a very, very violent day in several cities in Kyrgyzstan.
And no sense that the violence is decreasing now?
Well, it's a really unclear picture. It's the middle of the night here. I think it's even later in Kyrgyzstan, so it's not clear on what's going to emerge in the morning. One of the questions that people have been asking here is who's actually in charge of the country. If the president has fled the capital, will he try to hang on to power in some other location? Has the government in fact resigned? There's a lot of unanswered questions, but some of that, I suppose, we'll know as day breaks in Bishkek and we can figure out who's in control of Kyrgyzstan.
And have you heard yet any international response to the situation, Norman?
Well, obviously here in Moscow, the Russians have been following the situation very closely. It is a former Soviet republic. They have appealed for calm. So too has the United States. Now, there's an interesting context to this story, Virginia, in that a lot of people say that Kyrgyzstan has had a very repressive government for 5 years, but really the criticism from the West has been somewhat muted, especially from Washington. Now, not coincidentally, there is a very large and important U.S. airbase in Kyrgyzstan that is key to supplying troops in Afghanistan. And there are more than a few analysts here who say the reason that some of the criticism of the Bakiyev government has been muted is because of the importance of that airbase. So it will be very interesting to see the new party that does take control of Kyrgyzstan, what they are going to do with this facility, assuming that President Bakiyev can't hang on to power.
Norman Hermont, really good to talk to you this morning. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.